Well, welcome back. I can't believe it. We are finally here. Finally here to final assembly, where we put this together for the final time. So let's get started. And of course, here's the book we're using. This has been a fantastic book, considering that I'm a new engine builder, and it has really guided me through the whole process. So here we are, final assembly, which it talks about, stuff to do before you begin, getting your supplies, getting your, assembly lube, getting your sealers, organizing everything, staying clean, and then basically, getting started. Looks like all in all there are, I don't know, there's how many steps? There are, let's see here. There are 60 steps. All right. So, and then of course, installation. That's gonna be another series of videos. All right. So anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get started with basically what we're gonna try to do here is screwing in engine blocks, plugs, and then more plugs, and then installing the bearings, and then inserting the crankshaft into the block, and then installing the main bearings and caps. So there's a few things for us to do here. So let's go ahead and get started. It says here the most exciting time of your engine build is now upon us, as all of your shiny new refurbished parts will come together to make what you've been dreaming of, a fresh LS engine. Alright, don't let the adrenaline get the better of you though. Follow the steps carefully and in order to ensure you don't make any mistakes. Alright, so step one, flip the engine block upside down on its stand. Alright, let's go ahead and do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wipe the surfaces down another time, just to make sure that everything is clean. All right. We want to make sure that this is clean. All right, so I got my mineral spirits here. All right, step number one, install screw-in engine block plugs. Install any and all block plugs of screw-in type, including oil, gallery, and coolant plugs. You should have noted where they all came from during this assembly. All of these are safe to reuse if their sealing washers are in good condition, but be sure to use Teflon-based thread sealant on the threads and under the sealing washers. New plugs include sealant on them. Torque this style of plug to 44 foot-pounds. All right. So I've got these guys right here. You remember where all these guys came from? Of course, this one came from right here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wipe this down. All right, these oil plugs have to be torqued to 44 pounds. All right, 44 pounds. I'm going to use an extension on this one. And for this big one, I have to get the proper socket adapter because I do not have the right size. My machine shop took out the old one. Okay, all right, so here we are. Let's see, we've installed the screw and engine block plugs. This one here, this one here, and I still have to go to the store and get the tool to be able to install this one, but which goes right here. But that's okay, that could come at a later time. There's no rush. All right, install press-in block plugs. I've done that. All right, now install main bearings. Wipe each bearing shell, seating surface in the block or main cap, as well as the back side of each shell before proceeding. The upper main bearing shells, the grooved, must now be installed in the engine block, and the lower main bearing shells solid into the main caps. Be sure to install the thrust bearing shells into the center block bulkhead. Bottom of, okay, so it says here, if you establish the need to make one or more of these bearing shells undersized or oversized during pre-assembly, ensure each is being installed in its correct location. That's not our case here, so we can, and I measured them all, they're all the same. Each shell has a tab that fits into a recess in the cap or block, preventing backward installation. All right. Make sure each shell is fully seated with its edges flush with those on the main of the block or main cap. Crooked bearings could spell disaster. Also ensure that your main cap locating dowels are in place in the block at this time. All right, so that doesn't apply. All right, so let's go ahead and install. I've gone ahead and I've cleaned this out. Let's see, we've installed the screw and engine block plugs. This one here, this one here, and I still have to go to the store and get the tool to be able to install this one, but which goes right here. But that's okay, that could come at a later time. There's no rush. All right, install press-in block plugs. I've done that. All right, now install main bearings. Wipe each bearing shell, seating surface in the block or main cap, as well as the back side of each shell before proceeding. The upper main bearing shells, the grooved, must now be installed in the engine block, and the lower main bearing shells solid into the main caps. Be sure to install the thrust bearing shells into the center block bulkhead. Bottom of, okay, so each shell has a tab that fits into a recess in the cap or block, preventing backward installation. All right. Make sure each shell is fully seated with its edges flush with those on the main of the block or main cap. Crooked bearings could spell disaster. Also ensure that your main cap locating dowels are in place in the block at this time. All right, so that doesn't apply. All right, so let's go ahead and install. I've gone ahead and I've cleaned this out, and let's go ahead and install the ones with the grooves. All right, so here's the little indentation here where that goes. so we're going to make sure this is pushed down and flush with each. Make sure it's seated in the middle, and we're going to make sure it's flush with each edge here. Looks good. Looks good. We want to get it right because this is it. The engines come, going back together at this point. All right. Now let's install the. And these are identical on both sides, so I don't think it matters. All right. There are these little locating marks here, but there are none on the bearing. Okay, so that's uniform. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put these into the caps when we need to put the caps on. Give the seating surfaces of the block and main caps, as well as the bearings themselves, a final wipe. Lubricate the upper main bearing shells. Do not forget to lubricate the thrust facings of number 3. Spread some lube on the crank's main journals too. Now grasping the crankshaft by the snout. Okay, so we're going to lube this up first. Okay, so we've got some Clevite. Actually, let me go ahead and put this on the end. I'm making a mess here, ain't I? All right, so we're lubing up the thrust surfaces on this number 3. All right, got that lubed up pretty well. It says here, give the seating surfaces of the block and main caps, as well as the main bearings themselves, a final wipe. Lubricate the upper main bearing shells, which I did. Don't forget to lubricate the thrust faces of number 3 main bearing. I did that. Spread some lube on the crank's main journals too. Now grasping, well, let's go ahead and do that. All right, putting lube on the crank's main journals. All right. Okay. All right, look, this is the first time I've done this, so I know I made it real messy. It is messy, all right? Nobody's gonna deny that. This is not a clean job, all right? So it says, spread some lube on the crank's main journals too. Just did that. Now grasping the crankshaft by the snout and the rear flange, slowly lower the crank into the block. Use careful not to nick any of the crank journals. Just as the crank is about to rest on the bearings, it may get stuck. Slight adjustments in angle of the crank will likely be needed to get it to seat, as it will only go in just the right way. If gentle wiggling does not coax the crank to seat, pull the crank slowly upward and start over. Excessive jostling will damage the crank journals or bearings. It may help to rotate the crank slightly as you lay it in. All right. So we need to get this thing turned around. Actually, let me wipe my hands first. All right. Is it in? I think it's in. All right. Crank's in. All right. Went in actually real nice. Spins real nice. Very pleased. All right. After lubricating the lower main bearing shells, lay the main bearing caps in place, being sure to install each numbered cap in the correct location. The wings at the edges of the cap will face toward the rear of the engine with the exception of the number 5 cap. Well, yeah, that's pretty easy. I can't screw this up because they're marked. You'll see what I mean. All right, we're back. So here's what we've done. We've lubed up the main bearings, the upper bearings. We lubed up the journals. As you could see, the Clevite assembly bearing guard assembly lube that I'm using. I put it on the journals. It turns real nice and smooth. And now it says install main bearing caps and bolts. So we've got the main bearings, these lowers. Or no, yeah, would these be the lowers? Yeah, these would be the lowers. And let's see. And I also purchased from Summit, if I can get them open here, all brand new bolts. Okay, so I am going to remove these guys here and just try to still kind of somehow keep them organized. I'm not sure. I don't know why. I don't think I'll ever need them, but I'm going to anyway. Ah, the hell with it. You know what? I'm all using new stuff. So let's just go ahead and take everything out. Now, these are one of the few bolts that you can actually use over again. However, I decided to get new ones for a variety of reasons, because it turns out that this engine has already been rebuilt once before. In other words, this is the third time this block and this engine's being rebuilt. So the last time it was rebuilt, I don't know whether they reused these, okay? And then between all the pre-assembly checks, tightening it to do the plastic gauge check and untightening it and tightening again and retightening and untightening and screwed up the plastic gauge the first time, I had to do the plastic gauge bearing test twice. I mean, these things have been cranked and tightened and unloosened I don't know how many times. So I know these are be able to be reused, and I know that they don't have memory and are not supposed to stretch, but you know what? At some point, these things have to stretch a little bit. So once again, everything is new. Everything is new. The only thing I'm reusing are these rocker arms. Everything else is new, so I thought, what the hell? Might as well go ahead and get new bolts. So there you have it. So I'm going to go ahead and set these aside somewhere. let's see, what do we have to do now? We have to clean these guys up here and put them in the, here. So let me get some rags, some mineral spirits. Good dose of mineral spirits, and we're just gonna wipe these down. Okay, we're not gonna go crazy. We're just gonna wipe them down just a little bit. Okay, you can see there's a little bit of dirt on them, not much. But we wanna make sure they're good and clean before we use them. Okay. Again, I'm not trying to go nuts. All right. So let these dry up a little bit. And let's see. We're going to go ahead and lube all this up. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, put a little bit more mineral spirits on here. And then we're just gonna wipe down the seating area. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put these bearings in. The first one, let's see. Let me see. Okay, so looks like they tend to go on this side. One thing that drives me crazy is the amount of fuzz from these towels and rags. I try to get lint-free rags. Those things disintegrate. No matter how much they say lint-free, they leave lint on here, trust me. And these aren't very good either. You know, you're going to find little lint pieces on here. Now, there is no, as far as I can see, no key. There's nothing on here that states whether it goes in like this or whether it goes in like this. I'm just not seeing anything. They look identical. Identical on both sides. I see nothing here that would suggest which way it goes. So, does it matter if it's this way or if it's this way? I don't think so. So, what the heck? As long as it's level, more or less. And I'm going to use this table to kind of apply pressure, force it up in there. Okay. And make sure that it's seated level on there. Let's see, is there a little lip here? Not really. It seems like it's more or less in there properly. All right. So now we are going to lube these up. All right. So plenty of assembly lube. Don't forget to lube the thrust bearing surface, which is what I've got my finger on right here. The thrust bearing surface. All right. All right. That went in there nice and easy. Actually, before I do this, let me just get a rag to wipe my finger off. It's okay to be generous. This whole cavity is going to get filled with oil anyway. So this is good stuff. So it ain't going to cause any harm. Be generous. This is number 2. Take your time, because once we bolt these down, they ain't coming unbolted. Until hopefully it's time to rebuild this engine 150,000 miles from now. We've come this far, there's no need to rush. Dadgummit, I want to get done because I can't wait to fire this thing up. It's hard to not want to rush when you're excited about what the outcome's going to be. Just got to tell myself to simmer down. We'll get there. All right, they're all in. Now, install main bearing caps and bolts. After lubricating the lower main bearing shells, which we did, lay the main bearing caps in place, being sure to install each numbered cap in the correct location. The wings at the edges of the caps all face towards the rear of the engine. Boom, 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 boom. Except number 5. Boom. See, number 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The caps likely will not seat fully by hand, as remember, they are a tight fit between the deep skirt oil pan rails. Insert the M10 main cap bolts and start them by hand. To guide the caps down, alternate tightening the bolts side to side to ease each cap all the way into place. Do not do this on caps that use locating dowels. The longer non-studded main bolts go toward the center. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the brand new bolts. All right. And it says the longer non-studded So these guys. This is very nice of Summit, the way they've offered this protection. Okay. The longer non-studded main bolts go toward the center of each cap. All right. So let's go ahead and do that. And like everything, I've cleaned everything. So I feel compelled to make sure that I clean these. Oh, wait a minute. That's rubbing alcohol. That might work, but let's see here. Here's my mineral spirits. Just a quick once over, nothing too crazy. Okay. You know, I'm going to try to avoid putting dirt in the engine to the extent that I can. Some of you are probably thinking in your head, oh man, he's wasting his time. It's all right. It's my time to waste. And the rag doesn't tell a lie. So, just to get this right, the longer non-studded bolts go towards the center and the studdeds go on the outside. So I'm just going to make sure they're dry before I put them in. Okay. All right. The longer non-studded main bolts go towards the center of each cap. Boom, 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 boom. So the studded go on the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Then install the side ones loosely. And we do not need to use RTV since these have the sealant already on them. Okay, we're not tightening them down yet. We're just kind of starting them by hand. And these ones are so tiny, I'm not going to bother cleaning them because I'll end up dropping them and losing them. Make sure the sealant's on them. Yep. Oh, this one's not down all the way. That's the problem. All right, so I think what I'm going to do, because this one's not all the way seated, I'm going to wait and put these in later. All right? All right. Now, though GM recommends these M10 bolts be installed dry, some engine builders use a small amount of oil on the threads to help prevent any possibility of thread damage during tightening. You could put some under the heads of the bolts too. This is only because these bolts use the torque plus angle method. All right. So I think it doesn't sound like a bad idea. I think I might go ahead and put a little bit of oil on these. That looks promising. This is looking promising too. page. All right, my batteries are running low here on my camera, so not sure if this is going to catch everything. But the first thing we're going to do is tighten the inner main bearing bolt caps. Okay? Torque all M10 inner bolts, these ones, in the sequence shown to 15 pounds. All right? Front of the engine. All right? So let's go ahead and get this guy, and let's get our torque wrench. We're going to use the click style, and we're going to set this to 15 pounds. All right. There's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, 15 pounds. I'll tighten this up. Now I'm going to turn the engine over so I can read the book while I'm doing this. All right, so 1. 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. Before proceeding further, you must use a rubber mallet to hit the crank rearward, then forward. This aligns the thrust-bearing surfaces, and it is important to note that final thrust of the crank must be in the forward direction. Okay? So, rubber mallet. All right. Think that's good enough? And then we need to hit it forward. I think last time we did this on the Ascension stand, we used this stick here. You must use a rubber mallet to hit the crank rearward, which we did, and then forward with a rubber mallet. This aligns the thrust-bearing surfaces, and it is important to note that the final thrust of the crank must be in the forward direction. All right? So, we did that. And let's turn it and make sure it still turns okay. Yeah. All right. That actually turns real nice. All right. Then use your torque angle gauge to twist these inner bolts in sequence an additional 80 degrees. Additional 80 degrees. All right, ready? 80 degrees. All right, what's 3? 3 is right here. Over here.